session of cybersecurity and privacy course, and this is a very small interval before you go for your lunch and grab your lunch. Even you can have your lunch and still be listening to this conversation. Welcome back, and I want to believe that you are working and you're also listening to the videos, and more importantly, you are also reading the materials alongside the progression of the course. Okay, so this week I'm going to focus on some of the questions that have come from you. We have my TA Vinod Kumar has classified those questions into certain categories, and I'm going to address them in the next half an hour. And if you still have questions, of course, you can put it on chat or you can write to us. Okay. First of all, I want to emphasize that you need to get reading materials for the course yourself. I made it very clear in the last class, and some of you seem to be asking the same question. So I recommend that you listen to last week's live interaction video once again, and I have made clear what are the resources and what resources will be provided by NPTEL or the platform, and what are the resources that you need to procure. And I also give you sort of certain guidelines as to how you can get those resources, but you have to get them. And in particular, the textbook. Those who are serious about the course should buy the textbook and read the textbook along with the video lessons or the lecture lessons. Lecture lessons is one part, but it doesn't cover all the details that is covered in the textbook. Okay, so chapter 1 of the textbook is something that you are supposed to have already read up till week 2. And since that is a recurring question for the next 2 weeks, let me be a little more specific about the materials that you should read. That is for week 2 and week 3. Okay, I will just copy expected reading. You can read beyond that, at least what is minimum expected. Let me actually copy and post that in the chat box, so you can actually have a look at that. Okay. Okay, so these are the, I have just posted that. These are the readings for the next week 2 and week 3. So week 3 lectures are also posted. Please do read them. Okay, so and it requires you to have the textbook. Okay, and without textbook, it refers to chapter 4. You know, you cannot be complete in terms of coverage and also giving, also giving your examination. So please ensure. And the case, how to access the case, I have given you guidelines in the previous week. So please listen to the previous week's interaction. Okay. And now with this, let me actually look at some specific questions. Again, somebody has asked about information security and cybersecurity, and someone wants to believe that information security is bigger than cybersecurity. I think please listen to previous week's interaction lecture. We discussed that, and my definitions are not my definitions, but these are sort of industry or academic definitions. So develop proper understanding about it. And in the industry talk or in the expert talk, which I guess is the 7th week lecture, you will again go through, similar ideas from another person. So that will get reinforced. And then there is a question, category of questions on when will you start practical sessions? When is programming going to start? How are we going to defend against cyber attacks, and so on and so forth? I think it appears that some section of the participants believe that this is a training program. Okay? And that is actually a wrong expectation about a course, an academic course. Okay, there is a difference between academics and training. Okay, training equips you for certain specific skill sets. Okay, and that is not the purpose of the course. For example, ethical hacking is not a part of this course. You may develop an understanding about what it is, but to get trained on that is a different thing. Okay, so that is a very narrow and specific field. In a similar sense, how you actually defend against cyber attacks as individuals and as employees. Since this is a common request, I'm just going to share a couple of slides with you, and some people have asked nuances of certain definitions. I encourage you to read chapter 1 of textbook, which explains all the basic concepts related to cybersecurity, and they are clearly defined in chapter 1 of the textbook. But I have explained those concepts to you, foundations of cybersecurity, but you also need to read the textbook. Okay, so for completeness, let me now share my screen. I'm not able to share my PowerPoint here.
You can share your entire screen, sir. If not, just a window.
Desktop. Okay.
Yeah, we are getting your desktop. So now you can open your PowerPoint. Yeah.
Is this visible now?
Yes, sir. Make it full screen.
Yes, sir.
Okay, sorry. Okay. Okay, so let me do some reinforcement of the lessons, which I did in the lecture, but let me again explain this to you, because this is about fundamentals. Okay, particularly what are threats, what is an attack, what is a vulnerability, what is risk, what is an exploit, what is a payload. These are extra items, but all these are distinct concepts in cybersecurity, and therefore that need to be understood. Okay, so I have already explained that what is targeted by a hacker or a threat agent, as it is called, a threat agent or a hacker, what is targeted is an asset. Okay, assets are attacked. Okay, what are assets? You will see this in more detail on the session on risk management. That will be week 5. So assets could be the technology assets of the organization where you work, or it could also be human assets. The employees are also assets to the organization. So in cybersecurity parlance, which I already said is a broader topic, information security is a part of it. The hardware, the software, and the applications which processes information, stores information, transmits information is a part of cybersecurity. But cyber world is much extended and much beyond that. Okay, human beings are also a part of that. Policy is a part of that, and so on. Okay. So assets are targeted. For example, your server, your PC, and within that maybe a specific application. Okay, these are assets that are, or databases. These are targeted by threat agents. Okay, so threats is shown here. This is my own drawing. This is shown here as external, but threats could also be internal. Okay, for example, employees. Disgruntled employees could be a source of threat. Okay, they can actually participate in and be a part of a cyber attack. Okay, so threats do exist, a number of threats. Okay, and threat agents exist. Okay, and what do? They are waiting for an opportunity to attack your assets. Okay, and attack is a realization of a threat. Okay, denial of service or distributed denial of service is a threat. Okay, and it is initiated by certain hackers or threat agents. Okay, and what is the attack? The attack will be known as denial of service attack. Okay, that is an attack. Okay, so the idea here is to attack, say, a server. Okay, so that a system does not respond to genuine need or genuine request for service. Okay, it gets occupied with requests which are not genuine. Okay, so the machine gets stalled, and that is a denial of service attack. But can somebody tries to attack? Okay, the attack may or may not realize. Okay, because the organization has a wall, okay, built a wall, or organization has certain defenses. Okay, deployed software. Okay, deployed firewalls, or deployed intrusion detection and prevention systems, okay, or malware detection systems. Okay, so all that is actually a wall. Okay, but you can see that despite the efforts to build a wall, a perfect wall, there is no perfect wall. There are holes in the wall. Okay, the holes in the wall are known as vulnerabilities. So somebody asked, what is vulnerability? Vulnerability is a weakness in the system. Okay, that weakness could be in defense, or the weakness could be in the asset itself. Somewhere in the system, okay, there are weaknesses which the hackers are aware of. Okay, they will not blindly attack, but they will actually try to go through a hole, a vulnerability, a particular weakness. Refer to target case. Okay, target had a vulnerability despite having invested hugely in defense. Okay, that vulnerability was that the LAN configuration, okay, was not done correctly. It gave access to a vendor's machine to the POS machine, which should not have happened. And therefore, there was a problem with LAN configuration, and that is the vulnerability. The vulnerability or the weakness in the system is the misconfiguration of LAN. It is not the attack that happened, which is the vulnerability. It is not the RAM scraper, which was the malware which was planted by the hacker on the POS software. That was not the vulnerability. Vulnerability was the misconfiguration. Okay? That was a weakness in the system. Now, then we also talk about there is something called exploit. Okay? And exploit is a method that the hacker uses to hack. Okay, is a method or a technique. For example, if it is a malware or a RAM scraper in the case of target corporation, to read a credit card data from RAM when the data is, is present and not encrypted, that is an exploit used by the hacker. Okay, and exploit is the method for hacking. Okay, attack is the name of the attack. Okay, for example, denial of service is an attack. Okay, denial of service attack, but it went in to the machine through a vulnerability, which is LAN misconfiguration, and that particular attack is an exploit. The exploit in a noun, exploit can be used as a noun or a verb. Exploit as a noun is the particular malware that was planted on the machine, POS machine. Okay, exploit as a verb is the method through which, okay, so they gained access to the POS machine through the vulnerability. That is the exploitation they did. Okay, so understand these terms clearly, and then of course in the session on risk management we will deal with this in more detail. So let's wait for the upcoming sessions. Okay, there is risk. Risk is actually a combination of impact and threat probability. You will see that in more detail. Okay, so it is a product of chance of success of a threat into if a threat materializes or if an attack happens, what is the impact on the asset and on the business process. Okay, that is the impact, which is actually a financial measure. That together is the risk. Okay, we will see the details in the next class. So let me actually move on. And another recurring question is about how do we actually prevent, or how as individuals you can actually protect yourself from attacks. Okay. So that is a common question. I already said this cannot be exhaustive. This requires training as to how you fight back and how you can actually prepare yourself for a very sophisticated defense against hackers, who are updated every day. So this session in no way is an exhaustive lesson on how to defend your systems, but it let me actually give you certain, common precautions as employees and as individuals. Okay, so at an individual level, okay, that is your question. That's a category of question that one can do so that you can protect your systems and your phones and your machines and your resources from being hacked. Okay, so as I said, NASCOM has reported that there are the three top threats of our current times based on threat intelligence as malware, ransomware, and phishing. Okay, these are classified as top three. Okay, so therefore let's look at that. So malware is a common category. Okay, malware stands for malicious software. So a ransomware, also in a strict sense, is a malware, a malicious software, okay, which is intended to harm a user's system. Okay, the RAM scraper, which we discussed, is a malware. Okay, it actually taps data from RAM. Okay, and then through a remote administration tool, which is also shown as a malware, the hacker from the hacker's machine can monitor your system. Okay, they gain that is called payload. You get continuous access, or a hacker gets continuous access to your machine to continue to disturb, tap data, or harm your system. Okay, so that is the payload. So all these Trojans, keyloggers, all these are actually malware. So now the question is, how do you protect yourself from malware? Well, how the useful question, converting that question into a practical question, is how do hackers plant malware in your machines? Okay, that is the question, because there is an exploit. There is a way they plant malware on your machines. So that is what you have to prevent. Okay, so how does malware reach your machines? Okay, and in fact, what is given here as social engineering, especially phishing, spear phishing, wishing, etc. These are exploits. So these are methods through which oftentimes malware is planted on your devices. Okay, and that is where we have to take the precaution. For example, how is social engineering done? Social engineering is an effort to understand you, who you are, where you are, etc., and then create phishing mails or phone calls that will impress you and that will sort of make you share your information with the hacker. Okay, so beware of phone calls from unknown people. Okay, the simple principle is, if there is an email or a call from anyone whom you don't know, okay, be very, very precautious. Okay, be very careful, or be very negative. Okay, always try to verify who you are. Ask for credentials. Okay, and if there is an email, for example, to share your credentials, ensure that that email is an authentic email. Okay, go and check who has sent the email. Always verify the number. Always verify the email ID. Typically, if SBI sends you an email for KYC verification, that email has to come from SBI, not from a Gmail, not from an unknown mail ID. Okay, it has to be from a sbi.co.in domain extension of the email. Okay? Otherwise, it is a phishing attempt. So verify who is sending you. And if there is a link given in a phishing mail or a wishing, they ask you to open a site. Okay, and then they ask you to feed in your data. Always look at the domain name. Okay, without looking at the domain name, do not enter any data in your phone or in your laptop. When you work with your browser, always have a look at the domain name. Okay? So you know that SBI recently changed its domain extension from .com to .sbi. Okay, I was very affected by that, because why this change, and I took a lot of time for me to accept that, well, this is official communication. Okay, so .com to .sbi change was official. Okay, And you can of course go and read about it and you can verify it. Somebody is drawing nice pictures on the screen. Okay. So look at the domain name. If the domain name is not spelled correctly, they can actually make a small change. Instead of say online SBI, they can write N, or that O can be 0. There are so many nuanced changes they can bring it. It will look alike, but it is not the same. Okay. Be very careful. Without checking domain name, never enter data. Without checking domain name, never enter your user ID and password anytime. Okay. That will help you out of malware, I think most of the cases. Okay. Malware cannot get planted if you are careful about where you're feeding your username and password. Okay. Let me talk about keylogger and a personal experience. Okay. So keylogger is a malware that will get, once it is planted in your machine, it can tap data. As you type in alphabets or use your keyboard, the keyboard data can be tapped using keylogger. That is what they do. For example, when you enter your credit card details, it can actually read your credit card details based on the key sequence. Okay. And that is what a keylogger is. It's a malware. Okay. How do they get it? I'll give you an example. I use a keyboard software for my vernacular language, Malayalam. Okay. So when I like sometimes writing something in the vernacular language. So I decided to install a popular vernacular language keyboard software in my iOS phone. But iOS warned me, this software is free. Of course, the software is free and there is no advertising. So immediately I was concerned as to what is the business model? How do they make their money? Okay. I do not know. But there is a doubt. Okay? And of course, iOS warns you that this software can actually tap your keyboard data. There was a warning given to me, and it's up to me whether I should use this keyboard software or not. Okay. Of course, it's very nice to use, and you type nicely in your vernacular language. You feel like looking at it and feel happy. No irritation. No it doesn't annoy you with advertising, and it doesn't charge you any money. But we know that there is no free lunch. And therefore, one has to be very careful in installing any free software, any freeware. Be very careful. If there is advertising, it's a positive side. They are making money through some means, and therefore, through that, they are giving it free, like Google. Okay? But if there is something completely free, beware of malware. Okay, so that is another important warning I want to give you. Okay, so I think, and then of course, we all know about password policy. Don't have simple passwords. Your daughter's or son's name or your mother's name or your father's name, 1, 2, 3. These are all that can be guessed, okay, by social engineering, by brute force. You keep trying different alternatives and you can crack it. Okay, so design your password such that there is, it remains yours. The assumption of password is that this is something you and only you know. That is the basis, or that is a technical basis for the concept of password itself. It is authenticating you. So only you know it, okay, and only you can know it. Okay, so therefore the purpose is defeated if you have a very simple and easily crackable password. Okay, so these are some of the simple guidelines I wanted to share with you, and there'll be more as we go. And during the technical lecture, you will have more inputs or insights that will come in this direction. Okay, so let me close here. And okay, let me also look at the other questions that have come. There is a question on what are the challenges and opportunities for data privacy in the age of big data. IoT is a measurement process using HW and sensors. Hence, sensors are limited for a particular device. Well, we have a discussion coming up on IoT and also the challenge of automation using internet. Okay, so during that case discussion, we will address this point. Okay, so and that let us defer this discussion till that day. Okay, DOS attack, of course, this week This week's case is actually a case based on DOS attack, distributed denial of service attack. And in the case material, as well as in the presentation, you will hear about what is denial of service and what is distributed denial of service, and also potentially how it can be prevented. Today, there are DOS protection software that is available. Okay. And somebody has said, I think Target made a mistake here. The hackers who have hacked Target might have analyzed the best security systems in the world and have found methods to hack them. So I feel since Target had the same security system as the CIA or the Pentagon, they became vulnerable. What do you think of this statement, sir? I do not know. Okay, because this is hacker intelligence, whether they had knowledge of the Pentagon software. They are, of course, brilliant, but we don't have reliable information beyond what is documented and given in the case. Okay? They may have. What is the actual difference between security policy developers and security professional? Okay, so I think again you have to read chapter 1. I can't actually redo what is already done. Okay, so but policy. Keep in mind, policy is at a top level, and therefore policy initiatives or policy formulation is led by a CISO, means Chief Information Security Officer, or someone who is at a leadership level for IT or for security, depending on your organizational structure. And therefore, it's at a senior management level, whereas security professionals operate more at the technical level. Okay, they are more trained for technology, for defense, for other services related to security. Okay, so the levels are different in other words. Okay, what is true positive and false positive? Okay, well, let us defer this question to, I think, session 7, where when we discuss biometric devices. Okay, so we will be discussing what is true positive and what is false positive, and maybe I will after you go through that lesson, I will actually talk about it once more, since this question has come up. Okay, so let's defer it. Let's not jump the gun, because there are a lot of things that you need to learn as you go. The questions about week 3 lecture materials, I cleared this already. You have to read chapter 1, and for the next week's chapter 4, as I have given you in the chat box. The materials, essential materials. Okay, when I move from chapter 1 to chapter 4 of the textbook, it doesn't mean that you are prevented from reading chapter 2 and chapter 3. Okay, I'm saying what is essential. Okay, I want to know, is there any source to get the alert via mail or SMS while cyber attack happens in our network? Okay, so you're talking about threat intelligence. Again, this is an area of specialization or expertise. Okay, so in your technical talk, you will listen to this aspect, because he's an expert in threat intelligence. Okay, so there are actually tools that can help you get warning. Okay, so malware detection systems. Basically, if a malware is installed, it detects and reports, and sometimes there are software that can actually uninstall malware as well. So there are tools for this purpose. Notes, some people are asking for notes, PDFs, etc. This is already clarified in the first interaction. And you have transcripts of your lectures available in YouTube. I saw that already. The audio has been transcribed or converted into text, and they are actually given to you to read in your alongside your video in YouTube. And if you have difficulty in understanding certain English terms, you can always take the help of Google to get it translated. Okay, final exam pattern. Well, this will be online, and as we said already, and you have heard it from NPTEL admin, that there will be an announcement about the final exams well in advance, and then you will hear about it. Okay, so I'm done. Let me look at some of the questions that has come from in the chat box. Do we have to use Kali Linux in this course? No. You can use any system you want. This doesn't train you for any particular software, as I said. Okay, we'll be covering IT auditing report as a part of this course. Of course, we will be discussing something known as cybersecurity governance and standards. Okay, and along that, auditing is a part of that. Okay, so the upcoming session or the third week is actually dealing with that. So you will get answer to your question when you go through the lectures. Can you share? Okay, somebody has shared the book again. Please look at the course outline that is already given as to what are the reading materials, what's the textbook. This is expected, and please do that.
Yeah, Professor, I have a question. Can I ask right now?
Yeah, please.
Yeah, as far as data security standard is concerned, so US is having their own standards like in CSSP and all. They have a complete governance mechanism, risk mechanism and all. So in India, primarily we are talking about IT Security Act or 2000, or like PSUs are having their own cybersecurity standards like Cybersecurity Electricity Authority and all. So is there going to be a common security standard also, like which would be governed by
Digital
Parliament
India Bill,
or
which is coming
like
up.
that?
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so like data labeling and all, we are not, I'm in industry since last 20 years, but we have not used any specific standard to data labeling and all. So is there anything coming like that? Like
I suggest that you go through the lectures of week 3, which is dealing with standards and frameworks. Okay, what you are actually mixing two things. One is about law and regulation. The other is standards and frameworks. Okay, these are two things. You will get an idea about cybersecurity standards and frameworks in week 3 lecture, and we will be discussing law and regulation like GDPR, India's data privacy regulation, which is coming up, the Digital India Bill, etc. Towards the end, when we discuss data privacy. Okay, so that's when we are going to look at the law and regulation. And what you are asking is a mix of both the things. So go through week 3.
No, why I'm asking the mix of two things is, the first point is that whatever military standards and other standards are there. So is there any specific standard like the US one, which is military, like confidential or top secret like that in Indian paradigm? And second thing is, I am also asking the regulatory standards in India. What are HIPAA and GDPR we are talking about? They are either US or UK or so specific to that. Is there anything coming out to be in India?
Yes, we are going to discuss. You have to wait for those sessions. That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
Let me not oversimplify it. Please go through week 3 lessons. Okay, complete that and then wait for data privacy. Okay, wherein we actually look at each regulation. Okay, in fact, we look at regulation as a landscape, from different regions of the world, and come to India and discuss India's upcoming regulations. Okay, so there are detailed sessions on that. So please wait. Okay. All right. So we will close here. Thank you very much, and see you next Monday at 1 p.m.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Welcome.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Have a great day, sir.